Have you ever wondered what was happening on Mars? Around 1 million years BC, before Christ. According to a CIA declassified document, declassified on August 8th, 2000, labeled Mars Exploration, there was some interest in such a case, and those with the inert human ability of remote viewing were able to hone in on locations at given times on Mars. This document was more of a transcript of the remote viewing session, as they call it, an interview, with some interesting implications. This video is going to be a little different, as our main source here really is mostly a transcript, but we'll go into it. There was speculation that this document, the declassified document I'm using as reference, is a transcript from Project Stargate or Operation Sunstreak, a program handled around 1985 to 1990, funded and overviewed by the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency here in the US, and ran by INSCOM, the Intelligence and Security Command, to explore the possibility of remote viewing as an information gathering tool. But what is remote viewing? Remote viewing is the practice of mentally seeing or describing a distant or unseen target, like a place, object, or person, without using the normal senses or physical contact. It was developed as part of a Cold War era psychic research, where trained individuals, called remote viewers, would receive a set of coordinates or a sealed envelope, and then describe what they saw at the target location. Given government interest in human inert abilities for intelligence gathering through projects such as Operation Sunstreak, let's review this declassified document covering what could have been an account at viewing Mars 1 million years BC. This takes place with a viewer and a monitor role, two people, where the monitor is interviewing the viewer on what they see as they guide them through points of interest from special interest groups, not disclosed in the document. Now this begins in May 22nd, 1984. A method of site acquisition was used to gain insight on Mars. This method was a sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. This envelope was not opened until after this interview. This envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information. 3 lines. First, the planet Mars. Second, time of interest approximately. And the third line, 1 million years BC. The coordinates provided by the parties of interest that were requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview at different points. There were a few of them. It wasn't just one. Which interested parties and what they were interested in specifically was not disclosed in the document. But, given what the viewer sees, we could maybe get some insight as to what they were so interested in, and we could dive into the implications of such information. So now, going into the provided transcript, let's summarize the points of interest and what the viewer saw. May 22nd, 10:09 a.m. The viewer is told to focus on the envelope and a given set of coordinates that are a supplement to the given coordinates in the envelope. Then, they are asked to describe what they see, current day. At this first location, The viewer sees a pyramid or some object resembling one. It's a very large structure that goes up high and starts at a large depressed area. It's yellowish, described as an ochre color. Then, they were asked to use the time in the envelope and view the same site, but at that given time period. And as we discussed before, the third line was 1 million years before Christ. The viewer is able to then view this location at that given point. They describe a major geographic problem. Super severe clouds resembling dust storms everywhere as far as the eye can see, no matter where they move or look. When asked for more details, the viewer mentioned seeing a perception of a shadow of people. Very tall and thin, but only a shadow. The viewer first looks current day on Mars at a given site, then moves back 1 million years and has a perception of beings. What's very interesting is the implication that the viewer not only was viewing Mars' current day at the time of the session, they were able to rewind time and move around, almost perceiving the environment and its people. Then, the monitor asks the viewer to go back to a period of time when those shadow beings were there. After some static and breaking fragments of views, the viewer reports the raw data. They see very large people. They appear thin and tall, but very large, even wearing some kind of clothing. The word large and thin is used a lot. And I'm calling them people, but the word people wasn't used. He describes beings of a sort. The monitor requests the viewer to hold this time period, then go to a new set of coordinates. The viewer is now in a canyon. A wall of the canyon has been carved, resembling giant structures, mostly huge sections of smooth stone. The viewer compares what they see to a rabbit warren, just a very large one. What's very interesting here is how the viewer is able to immediately move. The document has some reference to how much time is passing from the starting point of 10:09 a.m., but these are only in very rare occurring snippets. Here, it mentions a time passing of like 10-20 minutes. Later on, there'll be another time of 40 minutes that passes, different segments that are actually cut out of the document, or just not mentioned for whatever reason. But it's super interesting that the implication here, so far, is that as a remote viewer, not only are able to see items with your mind almost, to perceive other locations in the brain and describe what they're quote-unquote seeing, they could also do this at different points of time at a given location. The monitor, again, asks the viewer to move along some more coordinates. This is a very repetitive pattern in this document. The monitor provides new coordinates and the viewer moves, guided. At the new location, they see a large road with a marker resembling an obelisk. Going even further, they see a huge circular basin near a range of very ragged mountains. Moving even further, you see a cluster of squares up and down, almost flush to the ground, and it looks as if they are connected. Something very white between the squares, almost reflecting the light, can be seen. So far we're getting fragments of views and ideas. And this person stumbled upon some weird stone, or presumably not stone, a cluster of squares that's seemingly reflecting light. This continues for some time. The monitor gives the viewer new coordinates, and the viewer describes what they see. This includes more roads, more crossroads, carved channels, and even at one point, the person being able to see aqueducts. Then, the final stop for the viewer are yet again more pyramids resembling the first one, the initial view, the vision, the ochre color. Entering one, they describe the pyramid as a shelter from storms. Chambers stripped on any furniture or anything, strictly for functionality, almost as if the chambers were made for hibernations, letting those who live here to sleep through the raging storms described earlier. The monitor asks the viewer about those who sleep through the storms. Seeing more beings within the pyramid, the viewer describes more tall, thin, large beings wearing what appears to be super light silk, but not flowing or acting like traditional clothing, cut to fit. The viewer apparently was able to speak to the beings and was able to actually ask them questions. Now this is super interesting, because if remote viewing is an inner human ability, a paranormal ability, then being able to actually speak with other entities beyond different time frames is quite frankly super interesting. The viewer continues to account what they hear. They learn that they are a dying people, very ancient, and it's past their time or age. They are describing what the beings are telling them. They are looking for a way to survive, but they just can't. They can't seem to find their way out. Those beings are waiting for something to return, something coming with the answer to their problems. A party or group looking for a new place for them to live. According to these beings, things here on Mars started failing really fast at some given point, and a small subset of these beings went to look for a new home, as those that remained stowed away and hibernated. At this point, they are still waiting. When asked where the other group went, the viewer was even able to start describing their ship, almost moving without even giving coordinates to the other group that left Mars. They were able to describe some kind of larger boat with very rounded walls and shiny metals, some kind of spacecraft or ship. Going even further, the viewer was even able to view their destination, which was a place full of volcanic activity and vegetation. Here, the session concludes with the monitor grounding the viewer. His words, "Move now back to the room, back to the sound of my voice, back further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. And again, going into some more speculation on what remote viewing abilities exist and what they are capable of. Here, we weren't given any coordinates for where these other beings were, and yet after speaking with these beings that knew of their other subset, their other group, that presumably flew off somewhere to find a solution, a new home for them, for these people, it seems like they were able to just move directly to that reference point. It's this part was definitely a bit more of a stretch. I know that might sound pretty weird considering how much of a stretch all of this is, but going further, especially on this channel, we will be posting videos about Operation Sunstreak, hence why I mentioned it here earlier, and other operations covering these inner human abilities that are able to be used for intelligence gathering in such a case like this. And these other offshoots of the ability of remote viewing aren't mentioned in those other accounts. So when looking into Project Sunstreak, into the Gateway experience, into other methods and means of people on how they could obtain information using their mind in a way. Remote viewing is never described in such a case as this. And so, if remote viewing is to be a real inert human ability, this is quite interesting. And not only that, going back to the actual document, there's a lot of implication here. That was a general description of the transcript following the monitor, guiding this viewer along different areas of Mars at different times. What's interesting here is that remote viewing, according to this and other declassified documents, was researched and invested into. If remote viewing really is a tool of information gathering, and if it truly could be used to view places at different time frames, was there really some civilization that lived on Mars that possibly moved to Earth to save their people? So admittedly, this one is a bit more far-fetched, and the content being a bit different than what I have covered before. We will be diving into larger scale projects, such as Operation Sunstreak, that covers investment into human inner abilities and ways to enable such abilities to manifest, with coverage of potential applications. The CIA really did disclose some interview where a person presumably having the remote viewing ability viewed Mars and different time points and found evidence of the lost ancient peoples of beings. An interesting idea and notion, however a bit much to go off of, given one transcript. Either way, the CIA had enough interest in this to hide this transcript until it was declassified in August 8th, 2000. That was a big year for declassifications, if you guys have seen my other videos. What do you guys think? Are there inhabitants from Mars on our planet right now? Maybe they should take a cryptid clue.